Alright, so what we're going to be using is a 17mm socket. We got our brake pads ready to go. We got some silicone paste. You can get this in the bottle like this, or you can get it in the small pack from your auto parts store. Flathead screwdriver. I got a C-clamp to depress the actual piston itself. A little pry bar. And that's about it. First thing we're going to do, make sure the car is jacked up properly and safe. Nothing's going to move on you. Make sure your reservoir is open. We're going to remove these two 17s here. I'm going to use my impact driver. Makes it a little easier. Bottom one is straight, no little notch. It's the opposite on the driver's side. We're on the passenger side. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to use our pry bar. We're going to stick it right in this hole between the actual rotor and the outside of the caliper and try to pry. You can use your small flathead if that doesn't work. Sometimes it takes a little more force than you expect. Alright, after you get that off, don't let it hang on this rubber hose. You can damage this hose. I'm going to rest it there. Alright, we got our C-clamp. We're going to put the thread section inside the piston. Get it snug. And slowly, half a crank at a time, let it move. Half a crank. Let it move. So my caliper was stuck. It was all rusty. I could not get the piston to push back. So I went and bought this brand new one. And that's what it looks like. I already pulled out the purple plug that it comes with. It also came with new hardware. They gave me 2 new screws, 2 new shims, 2 new copper washers, and some other little doohickeys. So we're going to go ahead and get this guy installed. We've already removed the old one. Used a 12mm wrench and took off this bolt from the back here. There are 2 copper washers, one on either side of this piece. There's one here and one here. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace those copper washers with the new ones. One goes on the screw first. The screw goes through. Another one goes on here. And then, get this guy. That little pin goes inside of there. And we'll thread this in nice and easy. Start the threads out. Make sure you hand tighten them at first. 12mm wrench. I used a vice grip and a hose clamp to prevent any of my fluid from draining as I went to the auto parts store. Just try to massage that hose after you take these off, if you do that, because it'll flatten it out a little bit. Alright. Put that under here so the hose isn't, hold on. R for right. Make sure you get the correct one. Now we're going to pull off our old hardware. First pad that's going to go on is the one with the wear limiter. It's going to go on the inside. Going to lay the bottom part of it in. Work the top on. Nice and easy. Second pad is going to be the outside pad. No wear limiter. Put the bottom part in. Top part goes in. So when I was putting the new caliper back on, I realized the back of my rotor was completely destroyed. As you can see, it's all scored. So I ended up taking it off. To get this off, I had to take off this cover, which I used a 17mm to take out all these bolts. There were 6 of them. After you take that off, you will have the room to get here, and you can take off these bolts. Excuse me, these are the ones that go in there. These are the ones that go in here. So the 17 is this one. That's the 17. And then this one is a 14. And after you get those off, the next thing you're going to be faced with is you're going to have this lock washer on the outside. Under that is this locking nut, and then that is the bearing. This lock washer, when you see it from the outside, will be on here like such, and there's 2 tiny screws, they're Phillips head, holding it on, and it's screwed onto this piece on the back. So the screw is actually one of the small holes. So after you take this piece off, then this is just a huge nut, and it can unscrew. I've wiped all the grease off of this already, but those are the little screws that you take out, Phillips head. So we got all that done. We cleaned up some of the grease that was falling out. What we're going to do now is change the speed sensor off of our old rotor and put it on our new rotor. So we got our new rotor. Here's the item number. I got this from Advanced Auto. It was like 60 bucks or something like that. Here it is right here in the package. It does not come with your speed sensor, obviously. So we got to take this one off. I would recommend some freeze off. This stuff's great for getting off bolts that have been on for a long time, especially in this case where they seem pretty rusty. Alright, I'm going to get myself an Allen key. We'll go ahead and get these off. We're using a 5/16 Allen wrench socket. We're going to go ahead and put this in. Make sure you tap it in so it's all the way in there, because you do not want to slip. I've already broke all mine loose. Yours are probably going to be pretty snug. Deep creep or the freeze off, whatever you like to use, would be definitely a good idea. Alright, speed sensor ring is out. Bring that over here. Doesn't matter which way it goes. Alright, after you get your brake rotor nice and clean, we're going to go ahead and start putting it back on. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to connect the hub itself to the brake rotor. How we're going to do that is this just marries up right to here. I would recommend with some sandpaper, just getting these surfaces back here. Any rust or anything that's in the way, clean that off so you have a nice bonding. Go ahead and put this together. Back here, you'll see how it lines up. Flip it over. This is 17 we're using. Start them all out a little bit. You want to go like an X pattern. Alright, so now we're going to put some grease on the shaft. We use bearing grease for this. Alright, Alright, then we're going to take our new rotor with hub. We're going to slide it on. It'll pop on. It's a little difficult to get on, but it'll pop on. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to reinstall the bracket here. I didn't show this coming off, but how this goes on is it slides over your rotor. These two slide in. This is a 7/8 socket I'm using to put these on. We get our 7/8 socket and tighten this up. Okay, after that's tight, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to now get our bearing, which is going to go on this side of the hub. Put some more grease. It's going to slide in with the taper that goes inward. After that goes in, push it a little bit with your fingers, try to get it to sit back in there a little bit. Then you're going to take this nut with these lines on the outside facing out, put that on, and just get it started. And then I actually used a brake tool to thread it like this. And you want to thread that just until it feels snug. You don't want it too tight. Looks good about there. Now we're going to take our locking ring, and what we want is the screw can go in any of these holes. So when we put it on, these are going to line up with the two tapers in here, as you see them here. So we're going to drop this on, and then we're going to look at these holes and see where they line up. Now, if you're shy of the hole, like in my case, the hole's right here, just back that up a little bit. Tiny bit's not going to hurt. Then get your screw. You'll know it's the wrong one because it's too big. Alright, now that everything's on, your nut's on, your lock screws are in, we're going to go ahead and double check all these. Line it up, make sure that gasket underneath it is good, which is right here. In my case, I don't have a new one, so I'm just going to run with what I got. Start all these by hand. We're going to tighten them in a cross pattern so they all get equally tight, and we're not going to go crazy on them. Next thing we're going to do is grab our brake caliper and load it over the rotor. We've got the piston completely depressed because it is brand new, as you see here. Go ahead and put your shoes on and load that on. Alright, I'm going to get our first pad with the wear limiter on the bottom, loading the bottom, loading the top. Same on this side, bottom, top. Grab our caliper, load it on and over. Make sure these rubber grommets, go ahead and change up the lighting for you a little here. Rubber grommets sit flat. Groove screw actually goes in the bottom on this side. Square one goes on top. Start those by hand. Take our 17. Like always, double check with your mechanical wrench. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to bleed this brake caliper. Since we did change this guy, there's no fluid in here. So make sure you got nice and a filled fluid reservoir. Make sure this guy is snug, which I know it is snug, but nice and snug. We're gonna go ahead and get a wrench and a little pipe for this, and I'll show you how to do the one-man method. Since we're working on a rodeo, we're gonna use .3. So we're gonna put some of that .3 in this little can. Just about that much. Then what we're gonna do, we got ourselves an 8mm open end wrench to fit this. We got our hose on here. We're gonna put our bottle on here. And then you can stick this with a little magnet. You can buy this at your auto parts store. I think it was like $5 or $6. Super handy. So we're going to open this little thing up here, and we're going to push on the pedal. And what it'll do is it'll push the bubbles out and it'll suck back fluid. So we're going to do that now. Alright, so now the line's all bled, there's no more air. I bought these little covers on Amazon. They're pretty convenient. You slap on, cover your fitting. That won't get any dirt in it. I also use those on my grease fittings. I'll put a link in the description. So brakes are done, new caliper, new rotor, grease the bearings on the hub, put everything back together, and we're good to go. We're going to slap the wheels back on, and this project's done. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to ask any questions, drop them in the comments. And thanks for watching. Please subscribe.